This land holds the stories of our ancestors, and listen closely, and you will hear them.
I am listening, grandfather.
What if I told you that every person walks through life with a divine double, an unseen self guiding their destiny? The Igbo people call this mysterious companion Chi. It is said to walk beside each individual from birth until death, a force both intimate and transcendent, shaping the rhythm of one's existence. But what exactly is Chi? Is it simply another word for destiny, or is it something far more complex, something that watches, guides, and even negotiates with the choices we make in our life? And if Chi works with us, can we align with it to flourish, or fight against it and fall into ruin? The Igbo have long held that no human being is truly alone. Beyond the flesh and the visible personality lies another self, an inner companion bound directly to the Supreme Source. Chi is not abstract. It is personal, unique to every individual, the divine double that reflects one's path through the world. Some describe it as a guardian, others as destiny itself, and still others as the spark of the divine that gives each life its shape and purpose. In truth, Chi is all of these at once, defying simple categorization. What makes Chi even more fascinating is how it complicates the way we think about the self. In Western thought, we are often told that the self is singular, one being moving through time. But in African spirituality, the self is layered, woven of multiple dimensions. There is the physical body, the social identity, the ancestral inheritance, and then there is Chi, the divine double who walks beside. This understanding challenges us to see human life not as solitary, but as a relational, not as fixed, but as guided by dialogue with forces greater than ourselves. The presence of Chi raises profound questions. If every person has a divine double, then success and failure are not just a product of effort, but also of alignment. A person whose actions harmonize with their Chi may find doors open with ease, while one who resists may struggle against unseen currents. This is why the Igbo say, Onyekwe, Chi yaekwe. If one agrees, their Chi agrees. It is a reminder that human will and divine essence are intertwined, and that destiny is not imposed, but co-created. To explore Chi is to step into one of Africa's most profound philosophies, that every life carries within it a double presence, an echo of the divine walking beside us. It is both mystery and mirror, destiny and companion, reminding us that we are never alone in the unfolding of our journey. In Igbo cosmology, Chi is one of the most profound and mysterious concepts. It is at once a personal god, a spark of divine essence, and a unique destiny assigned to every human being. The Igbo say that no person is born without Chi, for it is the divine double that accompanies each life, shaping and guiding it from beginning to end. To speak of Chi is to speak of the unseen companion who walks beside us always, sometimes quietly, sometimes forcefully, but never absent. It is both a reflection of who we are and a reminder of what we are meant to become. The Igbo language preserves the weight of this truth through its proverbs. Among the most famous is Onyekwe, Chi yaekwe. If one agrees, their Chia agrees. This saying affirms that destiny is not a rigid script imposed from outside, but a living dialogue between human will and divine essence. A person's Chi does not force them into a path. Instead, it responds, waiting for the individual to take initiative. When a man or woman commits themselves to action, their Chi opens the way. Another proverb states, Chi onye adigi ya ama, ndu ya agagi adi emma. If a person's Chi is not favorable, their life cannot flourish. These sayings capture the tension between human effort and divine accompaniment, showing that success requires both personal resolve and spiritual alignment. Chi is not only a guide, but also a witness. It stands as a mirror of the individual, reflecting both their integrity and their failings. When a person lies or acts unjustly, they may deceive others, but they cannot deceive the chi. This is why chi is sometimes described as a judge, holding each person accountable not through external punishment but through the silent weight of truth. To live out of harmony with one's chi is to live in inner conflict, while to align with it is to walk in peace. In this sense, chi is not just destiny but conscience, a moral compass embedded within the structure of existence itself. The relationship between chi, the ancestors, and Chukwu, the supreme being, reveals the interconnectedness of Igbo spirituality. Chi is not the highest god. It is a fragment, a personal allotment of the supreme. Chukwu, in divine wisdom, assigns each human being their chi at the moment of existence, ensuring that no life is without divine presence. Yet chi does not operate alone. It is bound into the larger web of ancestry, carrying the strength of lineage and the memory of those who walked before. The ancestors watch, Chukwu oversees, but it is chi that walks most intimately beside the individual, guiding their choices day by day. This intimacy gave rise to rituals and practices through which the Igbo honored and consulted their chi. In many households, a shrine to chi, often represented by a small altar or symbolic object, was kept where daily prayers and offerings were made. Palm wine, kola nuts, or food were presented as gestures of reverence, reminders that the bond with one's chi must be nourished like any relationship. In moments of crisis, a person might withdraw into solitude, speaking aloud to their chi, pleading for clarity or strength. Some even performed ritual sacrifices, believing that by appeasing their chi, obstacles would be removed and fortune restored. These practices made chi not an abstract concept, but a lived presence woven into the fabric of everyday life. What makes chi so remarkable is its duality as both destiny and responsibility. On the one hand, it affirms that each person has a path uniquely their own, a divine essence that sets the rhythm of their existence. On the other hand, it insists that this path is not guaranteed. One must actively cooperate with their chi, aligning their will with its guidance. A person who neglects their chi may find themselves adrift, blaming fate for their misfortune, while another who honors and harmonizes with it thrives. The Igbo believed that misfortune often arose not from external enemies but from a broken relationship with one's chi. In this way, spirituality was deeply personal. The greatest battles were fought not with others but within, in the struggle to remain in tune with one's divine double. Chi also functioned as a profound equalizer in Igbo thought. Rich or poor, strong or weak, every human being possessed a chi. No one was born without a divine presence, and no one could claim superiority of essence over another. This gave Igbo society a spiritual democracy, a recognition that dignity and worth flowed from the divine double within. At the same time, it created a sense of personal accountability. One could not excuse failure entirely on external forces, for every person had a chi capable of guiding them toward fulfillment if only they listened. The philosophy of Chi reveals a worldview in which human life is both sacred and participatory. Destiny is not imposed from the outside but emerges from the dialogue between divine essence and human choice. The ancestors support, Chukwu oversees, but it is Chi that works closest, whispering when we are quiet enough to hear. To honor Chi is to honor the spark of divinity within, the unseen companion who shapes every step of the journey. It is this conviction that makes Chi one of the most enduring and profound concepts in African philosophy. A reminder that no human being walks alone, and that the key to destiny lies in the harmony between self and divine double.
This land holds the stories of our ancestors, and listen closely and you will hear them.
I am listening, grandfather.
The Igbo were not alone in this vision of a divine double. The Yoruba too spoke of Ori, a concept that mirrors Chi in its depth and significance. Ori is most often translated as inner head, but this translation barely scratches the surface of its meaning. In Yoruba cosmology, Ori is the spiritual essence that shapes a person's destiny. It is the divine portion of self that determines not only what one will become, but also how one must navigate the journey of life. To understand Ori is to understand that human existence is never random. Every path is marked. Every life carries its own blueprint. Ori is far more than anatomy or the physical head. It is the spiritual seat of consciousness and destiny. The Yoruba say, Ori la babo aba forisasile. It is Ori we must worship even before the Orisha. This proverb underscores the supremacy of Ori, for even the gods cannot bless a person whose Ori is not aligned. One's wealth, health, and success all flow from the state of their Ori. If it is in harmony, life opens with ease. If it is misaligned, nothing can prosper, no matter how many rituals are performed. This makes Ori both deeply personal and profoundly powerful. Central to Yoruba practice is the consultation of Ori through Ifa divination. Ifa is the sacred system of wisdom given to the Yoruba by Orunmila, the Orisha of knowledge and destiny. Through the casting of divining chains or kola knots, priests known as Babalawo interpret the messages of Ifa, revealing what Ori requires for alignment. Sometimes this guidance involves sacrifices, offerings, or specific taboos, all meant to restore balance between a person and their inner head. In this way, Ori is not a passive fate, but an active relationship. One must constantly listen, honor, and realign with it through divination and ritual. The similarities between Ori and Chi are striking. Both represent the divine double that guides each individual. Both are unique, personal, and non-transferable. No one can share or exchange Ori, just as no one can live with another's Chi. Both embody destiny, shaping the circumstances of one's life in ways that require cooperation rather than resistance. And both concepts emphasize responsibility. A person must honor the divine essence, whether through prayer, ritual, or moral living, in order to flourish. This shared understanding suggests a profound continuity in African metaphysics, a recognition that every human being is born accompanied by a divine guide. Yet there are also important differences. While Chi is given at birth as a fragment of the Supreme Being, Ori carries the idea of choice before birth. In Yoruba belief, each soul kneels before Olodumare, the Creator, in the realm of heaven to choose an Ori before descending to us. This choice determines one's destiny, talents, and limitations. Once chosen, it cannot be undone. The soul must live out the destiny carried by that Ori. This pre-birth emphasis gives Ori a slightly different character than Chi. It places more weight on personal responsibility before incarnation, suggesting that even before life begins, the individual has already participated in shaping the journey. This pre-birth choice also explains the Yoruba saying, Ori eninifi enise, a person is made by their Ori. Unlike Chi, which emphasizes an ongoing dialogue between self and divine double, Ori stresses the inevitability of living out what one has chosen in heaven. Yet both traditions agree that neglect or disrespect of one's divine essence leads to misfortune. Just as a man may quarrel with his Chi and suffer, so too can a person's Ori become angry or closed if ignored. Rituals of appeasement and offerings are therefore central to Yoruba practice, ensuring that Ori remains favorable. What makes Ori especially powerful in today's context is that it is still actively honored by Yoruba people worldwide. In Nigeria, Brazil, Cuba, Trinidad, and across the diaspora, Ori remains a living practice. Devotees wash their heads with sacred herbs to refresh Ori, pour libations to strengthen it, and pray daily to remain aligned with it. In Orisha worship, no ritual begins without acknowledging Ori, for without its blessing, no other force can truly help. This living continuity shows that the idea of the divine double is not only a relic of ancient philosophy, but a vibrant reality shaping millions of lives today. In essence, Ori affirms that every person carries within them the map of the destiny. It is a reminder that no matter the challenges of life, one's path is not arbitrary, but purposeful, chosen before birth, and guided by a divine essence. To honor Ori is to honor the core of who one is, to respect the part of oneself that is both human and divine. Like Chi, Ori reminds us that no person walks alone. We are always accompanied by an unseen self, a double presence guiding, witnessing, and shaping the journey. This parallel not only enriches our understanding of Yoruba thought, but also highlights the unity of African wisdom traditions, where destiny is never blind fate, but the unfolding of a sacred partnership between the self and the divine. Even in ancient Kemet, the ancestors spoke of the Ka, a concept strikingly similar to the Igbo Chi and the Yoruba Ori. The Ka was the life force, the spiritual double, the invisible twin that accompanied every individual from the moment of birth until after death. For the Egyptians, it was not enough to describe a human being in terms of flesh and personality. There was always another presence, another self, interwoven with the physical body. This Ka was personal, unique to each soul, and it carried the essence of vitality, identity, and destiny. Without Ka, one could not live. With Ka, one was never alone. The Ka was believed to be the spark that animated the body. At birth, it entered the human form as a divine gift from the gods, ensuring that life had both breath and purpose. Unlike mere breath, however, the Ka was enduring. Even when the body died, the Ka continued, demanding food, drink, and offerings from the living. This is why Egyptians filled tombs with bread, beer, meat, and incense. The Ka of the deceased required nourishment, and the living provided it to maintain connection and harmony. Death, then, was not the end, but a transition, where the Ka persisted in the unseen world, sustained by ritual and remembrance. This persistence of the Ka made it deeply personal, yet also cosmic. Just as the Igbo say, every person is born with a Chi, and the Yoruba affirm that every soul chooses an Ori, the Egyptians believed that every life carried its Ka. It was not transferable, not shared, it belonged to you alone. It carried your destiny, your vitality, and your divine spark. And like Chi and Ori, the Ka was not static. It could flourish or falter depending on how one lived. A person who honored Ma'at, the principle of truth, balance, and justice, was believed to strengthen their Ka, while one who lived in dishonor weakened it, risking disharmony in both life and afterlife. One of the most fascinating parallels lies in how the Ka functioned as both guide and witness. Like Chi, it reflected one's moral state. Like Ori, it was tied to destiny. The Ka was not simply an observer, but an active companion. Tomb inscriptions often included prayers such as, "May the Ka of the deceased live and prosper," affirming that the Ka was not gone with the body but remained present, needing to be honored. Families poured libations, presented offerings, and recited names to ensure that the Ka remained strong and benevolent. This is strikingly similar to Igbo and Yoruba practices of honoring Chi or Ori with offerings and rituals, showing a continuity of thought that stretches across millennia. The Egyptian understanding of the Ka was also tied to the Ba, another aspect of the soul often depicted as a bird with a human head. While the Ka was the vital essence and double, the Ba represented mobility and personality, capable of traveling between worlds. Together, Ba and Ka formed a complete picture of the soul, one anchored in life force and identity, the other free to move across realms. Yet even with this duality, it was the car that carried the closest resemblance to Chi and Ori. It was the car that stood beside each person as their spiritual twin, the unseen self that both sustained life and endured beyond it. Why does the car matter in this conversation? Because it shows that the idea of a divine double was not confined to one corner of Africa. From the Nile Valley to the forests of the Niger, Africans carried a vision of the self as layered, as more than flesh, as accompanied by a spiritual twin. Chi, Ori, and Kai may differ in language, ritual, and nuance, but they share a profound recognition. No human being exists alone. Each life carries within it a divine essence, a spark of the cosmos, a guide who shapes destiny. This continuity suggests that African metaphysics, whether in ancient Egypt or among contemporary Igbo and Yoruba, springs from a shared well of ancestral wisdom. The car reminds us that African spirituality is not fragmented or disconnected, but part of a great tapestry. When the Igbo speak of Chi, when the Yoruba honor Ori, and when the Egyptians offered to the Ka, they were all engaging with the same mystery. The truth that every person carries an unseen self, a divine double walking beside them. To recover this truth today is to recognize the unity of African wisdom across time and space. It is to see that the ancestors, whether in Kemet, Igbo land, or Yoruba land, all understood that destiny is never solitary. It is shaped by a companion as close as breath, as enduring as memory, and as divine as the creator who gave it. Thus, the car is not only a relic of ancient tombs and hieroglyphs. It is a voice echoing across Africa's past and present. It stands as evidence that the idea of the divine double is not confined to one tradition, but is a Pan-African philosophy of being. From the Nile to the Niger, the ancestors declared that we do not walk alone, and in the car we see one of the oldest testaments to that eternal truth. When we compare Chi of the Igbo, Ori of the Yoruba, and Ka of the Egyptians, we see not three separate ideas, but three expressions of a single truth: the mystery of the divine double. Each culture gave it a different name, wrapped it in different stories, and surrounded it with different rituals. Yet all agreed that every human being carries an unseen essence, a twin spirit that is both companion and guide. This recognition shatters the illusion of solitude. It says plainly that no one walks through life alone. Every step is mirrored by another presence. Every decision witnessed by the double that binds flesh to the divine. At the heart of Chi, Ori, and Ka lies the theme of destiny. These doubles are not passive shadows, they are the bearers of life's blueprint. For the Igbo, Chi is the fragment of the creator that shapes a person's fate. For the Yoruba, Ori is the head chosen before birth, the destiny accepted in heaven. For the Egyptians, Ka is the vital spark that sustains identity across death and beyond. Though their expressions differ, their message is the same. Life is not a random accident, but a purposeful journey, accompanied by a guide that knows the path more deeply than the conscious self. Yet destiny in these traditions is never a chain that binds. It is an invitation, a responsibility. To work well with one's Chi, Ori, or Ka requires alignment, moral integrity, and respect. The Igbo proverb, Onyekwe, Chi ya ekwe, when one agrees, their Chi agrees, teaches that the divine double does not impose but responds. The Yoruba affirm that a person must honor the Ori daily, offering it prayers and sacrifices so that it remains favorable. The Egyptians insisted that the Ka thrived only when one lived in accordance with Ma'at, the principle of truth and justice. In every tradition, the double is not just destiny, it is conscience, a mirror that reflects whether one's life is in harmony or discord. To live misaligned with this divine companion is to court chaos. When a person ignores their Chi, they drift into confusion. When one neglects the Ori, even the blessings of the Orisha cannot take root. When one dishonors their Ka, they weaken their very life force, severing ties that sustain them in both life and death. Misalignment brings sickness, misfortune, and despair. But when alignment is achieved, when the human will harmonizes with the divine double, life flows with clarity and strength. Doors open, paths clear, and even in difficulty, there is a sense of purpose that cannot be extinguished. This understanding carried immense power, and it is precisely why colonizers feared it. To teach that every person carried within them a spark of the divine was to give people unshakable dignity. A man who knows his chi cannot be told he is worthless. A woman aligned with her Ori cannot be convinced she is powerless. A people who honor their Ka cannot be made to believe that life begins and ends with chains. The colonizers understood that to break African societies, they had to break this knowledge, replace it with doctrines that stripped individuals of inner agency and made them dependent on foreign authority. Yet the knowledge endured. The idea of the divine double survived enslavement, colonization, and cultural suppression because it is too deeply woven into the human spirit to be erased. It continued in whispers, in proverbs, in rituals carried out in secret. It lives today in the diaspora where Yoruba communities still feed their Ori, where Igbo people still speak of Chi in their sayings, where Egypt's Ka is remembered as part of Africa's great legacy of wisdom. Chi, Ori, and Ka remind us that destiny is not merely external circumstance, but a partnership between human effort and divine essence. They teach us that morality is not an imposed law, but an inner compass carried by the double within. And above all, they affirm that life is never lived alone. Each of us walks with a companion unseen, a witness to our struggles, a guide toward our fulfillment. To honor that double is to honor ourselves. To neglect it is to walk in darkness. And in a world that often seeks to make us forget our worth, the knowledge of the divine double remains one of the most radical truths of all. As we arrive at the end of this journey, what becomes clear is that Chi, Ori, and Ka are not scattered fragments of superstition, nor are they relics to be dismissed as curious folklore. They are pieces of a larger tapestry, a map of African philosophy that reveals how deeply the ancestors understood the relationship between the visible and the invisible. These concepts show us that human life was never seen as random or isolated. It was recognized as a dialogue between flesh and spirit, between destiny and choice, between the self we see and the divine double walking beside us. Chi of the Igbo, Ori of the Yoruba, and Ka of the Egyptians each testify to a science of the unseen. They explain why dreams matter, why conscience burns within us, and why destiny cannot be reduced to mere luck. They remind us that spirituality is not only ritual, but also a framework for living, a system that recognizes responsibility, alignment, and harmony as the keys to fulfillment. For the ancestors, these doubles were the technology of life itself, guiding them through birth, struggle, triumph, and even death. They are living memory, philosophical tools left to us so that we might walk with wisdom, not blindness. To reclaim these truths today is to reclaim much more than old traditions. It is to reclaim identity, the deep knowledge that every African carries within them a spark of divinity that no colonizer could erase. It is to reclaim destiny, the understanding that we are not powerless but guided, that each life has meaning shaped by an unseen hand. And it is to reclaim sovereignty, the recognition that our ancestors gave us systems of wisdom sufficient to guide our moral, spiritual, and communal lives without dependence on foreign doctrines. In a world where many feel lost, alienated, and disconnected from their roots, the rediscovery of Chi, Ori, and Ka is more than academic. It is medicine. It heals the rupture between the self and the sacred. It restores the dignity that colonization tried to strip away. It whispers that we are never alone, that every step we take is accompanied by a witness, a guide, a double whose only desire is that we align with our highest path. Imagine the transformation if more of us lived in awareness of that truth. How differently we would see ourselves, how differently we would walk into the future. This is why we cannot let these teachings fade into silence. They are not just history, they are the inheritance of every child of Africa and every seeker of wisdom. They call us to live with courage, to listen to the unseen, and to walk with the awareness that we are more than flesh and blood. They are proof that African philosophy is not broken, but whole, not forgotten, but waiting, not weak, but enduring with the strength of millennia. If this opened your eyes to the divine double walking beside you, leave a comment and share your thoughts. Like this video if you believe ancestral wisdom deserves to live on. And above all, subscribe to History Store for more journeys into the hidden wisdom of Africa's ancestors. The story does not end here. There are more doors to open, more truths to reclaim, and more fires to keep burning. The ancestors are still speaking. Our task is to listen.